as a junior dev, how much experience do I need before looking at SDE2 jobs? All right, great question. First of all, great question. Really good. And I want to say no obvious answer. Okay, let me just say that. I'm going to give you a few guide rules, right? Are you able to handle tech tasks on your own with limited help? Limited help, right? If you're given a task, can you do it? Basically is that, right? And maybe you have to ask a few questions, but that's fine. You know, asking a few questions, maybe at a code base you've never touched before, asking like, you know, subject matter expert, blah, blah, blah. That's fine, right? But if you can like, if you constantly need someone to hold your hand and like walk you through like, okay, you have to edit this, then this, then this is how you test it. I would say you're still probably at around a junior level, which is fine, right? You have to be honest with yourself. And then another thing is like the big tech guardrail. Now, this is a topic I was saving for a YouTube video, but I do want to say that working as a dev at a smaller, scrappier startup that has less view, that has less impact people and customers, like it's very different, is very different than working at Fang. Than we're working at Fang. And let me explain why. At Fang, there's more guardrails because if you fuck something up and you cause an outage, you're going to be like in serious, like you're going to cost a lot of money, right? That's why there's so many guardrails at Fang companies. So going from a junior dev at a Fang company to a junior dev like a startup is going to be different. You're probably going to learn more at a startup, but you're going to learn, I believe, better practices as engineering at a Fang company. You're going to move a lot slower, and where you learn to be probably more siloed, but the guardrails that you have to go through for every review, I think are more diligent at a Fang company than they are at a smaller startup company where you have like one engineer reviewing your code. There's a reason why, you know, and I know some people say like Fang is overrated, and to an extent, yeah, I do think like you shouldn't listen to everyone who's worked at Microsoft or Amazon or Google, right? Like they kind of use their marketing ploy, like, oh, I worked at Fang, that means I'm so good, which is not necessarily the truth, but there is a level of like, you know, they probably worked at a big code base that had lots of customers that like an outage is going to cost lots of money and they can't really afford that. That's and why there's these guardrails. So basically it's like, you know, can you execute is one, and two, can you test your code? Those are basically the main two things I would say for any junior who wants to see, like, am I ready to go to the next step as an SDE2? Can you execute and can you test your code? One thing I learned is like, do you handle your code with plutonium? Like plutonium, right? Please handle your code like plutonium, which is a super exaggerated way to say like you handle your code with care. Test your code, you mean, yeah, writing tests, manual tests even, integration tests. Like what have you done to fully see all the edge cases in your implementation? Because one thing juniors do is like they get stuck in the J-hole. And that's where like, okay, my solution is the only way to do this and I know how to do it. And you go ahead and you write it and it works, right? The solution works, but there's so many other things that happen around your implementation. Did you account for those, right? The edge cases, the impact of your code in other spots of the code base, right? Like a very popular one, if you're using Go, an example, right, that I've done, right? Like this is like nil pointers in Go, right? Like sometimes you forget to instantiate your value in a struct, right? So you get a nil pointer error, right? Very common mistake that happens in Go developers, very common mistake that happens in junior developers, right? That's just an example. The song's from Bleach, right? Yeah, I think so. No degree, 2 years of experience with .NET and JavaScript, invest in JavaScript or .NET. Oh, wow, Pedro. I mean, I can't tell you what to do. I would say, like, what are you trying to be? Are you trying to be a front-end developer? I'd say JavaScript might be a little better. If you're going to be core backend, .NET is definitely the way to go.